the hidden hero behind every NASA mission. What if the greatest space missions weren't just won in rockets, but in quiet offices filled with chalk dust and coffee cups? Behind every iconic NASA launch, Apollo, Voyager, Artemis, there were minds you've never heard of solving impossible problems with nothing but slide rules, soldering irons, and sheer will. Who really saved the Apollo 13 astronauts when oxygen was running out? Who reprogrammed a lunar lander mid-flight to prevent disaster? And who made sure the first American satellite didn't fall back to Earth in silence? Are you ready to meet the people who made history but never made the headlines? Ed Smiley, the improviser for Apollo 13. 2 days into the Apollo 13 mission on April 13, 1970, the command module was rendered inoperable due to the explosion of an oxygen tank. The lunar lander, LM, where the crew had sought shelter, was only equipped with carbon dioxide scrubbers that could support 2 men, not 3. Engineers at NASA recognized that the CO2 would rapidly rise to lethal levels. "We've had an issue here, Houston," Commander Jim Lovell radioed. Ed Robert E. Smiley, the head of the Crew Systems Division back in Houston, realized that unless they jury-rigged a solution, a collapse was imminent. In order to convert the square command module CO2 canisters to the LM's circular filters, Smiley's team spent 48 tense hours going through flight manuals and hardware, testing everything that was available, including plastic bags, hoses, and even the liquid cooling line from an LM suit. The odd, taped-together device that saved the astronauts was created by a team led by Robert E. Ed Smiley. Did exactly that, using only replicas of items the crew had on board, according to a later NASA report. Smiley's invention was constructed in the lunar module by the 2 men on duty, and within minutes, CO2 levels dropped significantly. The Apollo 13 crew in a nervous world were in awe at the completion of the mission. As a quiet hero, Smiley and his coworkers are credited by NASA with jury-rigging a carbon dioxide filter that allowed the astronauts to breathe during the journey home. Smiley merely stated that he wanted to be a part of the moon expedition Kennedy had promised when asked why he had joined NASA in 1962. It would include his work, in fact. Smiley and the unseen teams of engineers and technicians demonstrated the ingenuity that transformed almost tragedy into victory in the chilly, murky hallways of Houston's Mission Control. Pioneering mathematician Katherine Johnson. One of NASA's first black female mathematicians, Katherine Johnson, was a brilliant woman who helped pave the way to the moon. She thrived in math under segregation and was born in West Virginia. Early computer results were distrusted by mission planners. By 1962, when John Glenn was getting ready for orbit, engineers called for human checks one by one. "I'm ready to go if she says they're good," Glenn famously demanded of Johnson. The mission was successful after Johnson manually recalculated the orbital route. The liftoff to lunar docking calculations for Apollo's lunar module, which made sure the craft headed to the moon met its orbiter in space, were her greatest contribution, she said years later. During her 33-year tenure at NASA, Johnson overcame obstacles with calm resolve. Despite having to use separate facilities in segregated Virginia, she and her colleagues, West Computers, distinguished themselves with contributions to virtually every area of research at Langley. Johnson said, "I loved going to work every single day," recalling how much he enjoyed his job at NASA. In recognition of her decades of groundbreaking service, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015 at the age of 97. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine referred to her as an American hero whose pioneering legacy will never be forgotten when she died at the age of 101. Her narrative, which was immortalized in the film Hidden Figures, serves as a reminder that human intelligence and tenacity were just as important in the space race as rocket boosters. NASA's first black female engineer, Mary Jackson. Mary Winston Jackson started out at Langley as a human computer as well. Under Vaughn's guidance, she joined NACA in 1951 as a talented mathematician from Virginia. In the supersonic wind tunnel, Jackson gained a reputation for accuracy and perseverance. Despite having to attend segregated schools for graduate classes, her skills gave her a special opportunity: engineering training for the Langley 4x4 supersonic pressure tunnel, according to NASA data. She broke down a barrier by becoming the first black woman engineer at NASA in 1958. In the 1970s, NASA engineer at a mainframe computer console. Before being promoted to the position of aeronautical engineer, Mary Jackson worked at Langley's calculation facility. "We have to do something like this to get them interested in science," she said, emphasizing the importance of mentoring young people of color. Jackson's will to help others was just as strong as her technical abilities. She was hailed as a gentle lady, humanician, and scientist in a feature from the 1970s, who felt that science and service went hand in hand. Jackson took a step back in 1979 as her promotion stagnated. She left the engineering department to take a position as Langley's Federal Women's Program Manager, which allowed her to support the careers of aspiring black mathematicians and engineers. According to NASA, she became the first black female engineer at NASA and a leader in ensuring equal opportunities for future generations by successfully overcoming the barriers of segregation and gender bias. The life of Mary Jackson demonstrates that lifting people can be just as important as any engineering achievement. Don Iles, Apollo's software savior. Don Iles was one of the software gurus of the Apollo era, when software was just as crucial as hardware. Iles, a young instrumentation engineer from MIT, contributed to the coding of the guiding computers used in Apollo's lunar modules. He had already resolved a perplexing alarm problem during Apollo 11's 1969 landing. A radar data overflow threatened to terminate the mission, but Iles was able to identify a known hardware malfunction and allowed the descent to continue. His greatest moment occurred in February 1971 aboard Apollo 14. A malfunctioning switch in the lunar lander started to give the computer a bogus abort signal as astronauts Ed Mitchell and Alan Shepard descended. The switch that would have sent the ship back into lunar orbit against the crew's desires was visible to the men in Houston only minutes before disaster struck. As he subsequently stated, "We had to write a new program that would make the computer not see the switch." Iles created emergency software on the spot. Apollo 14 made a successful landing, the patch functioned perfectly, and the landing went forward. Iles' calm, smart coding transformed the headline, "Extra, weird-looking freak saves Apollo 14," into a historical footnote during the mission's stress. His composed approach to problem-solving embodied Apollo's inner brilliance. After working for NASA in orbit for many years, Ailes compiled his experiences into memoirs like Sunburst and Luminary. Millions watched Alan Shepard bounce on the moon thanks to his skillful intervention, knowing that they were protected by an invisible mathematician back on Earth. Milt Heflin, Mission Control All-Star. The vast chamber of Mission Control is where the beating hearts of missions from Mercury to the Space Shuttle are located. However, he consistently highlighted how each accomplishment was the result of cooperation. Heflin commended the folks in Mission Control that you never see, who make all this stuff happen. It's remarkable what they can get done in an oral history conducted in 2017. If you love untold stories and hidden heroes of space exploration, hit that subscribe button and join us for more incredible journeys beyond the spotlight.